Hi, everyone. Once again, we are recapping Uvalde reactions to the school Robb Elementary shooting, where tragically there was a loss of life, our most precious commodity in our society, our children. Today, this is Robert Asncio. Let's talk with Robert Asncio. I am joined by parents from Miami-Dade County. To my right is Norma Schwartz with the PTA. We have Dr. Ryan Pontier with LULAC, and we have directly next to him Fatima Chaiken with also with PTA. Welcome, guys. I'm sorry that we're here talking about this, but if we don't get the parents' reaction to what happened and what's going on, we will never have changes. So let's get right into it. What are your reactions?
Well, it's hard to put into words because from the moment it happened up until today, and it's been a few days, you go between being angry, being sad, devastated, just a lot of reactions. And that's just me as a parent. Then I have to go through all these emotions with my children and the way they're receiving the aftershocks of what just happened.
Wow. Ryan?
I think it's a physical feeling, like my stomach is just dropped from inside of me. Just the thought of what children and teachers experienced in the school itself and how that hits home here, being the father of a 10-year-old, a fourth grader, and a 7-year-old, a first grader, and what that would be like for them and for us. I can't even imagine what that would be.
Fatima?
All I can say is, as a mother, as a grandmother, it's the most devastating news to see something like this happening to another parent in our community. Como madre me siento muy sola, pero quiero la ayuda de todos para que pongamos una luz y que todos trabajemos juntos para mejorar todo lo que está pasando en nuestra comunidad, especialmente con nuestros niños. No está bien, esto no está bien, and enough is enough.
Yeah, that seems to be a sentiment across the country. There's more Americans saying enough. This is on the heels of the supermarket shooting in Buffalo, but it's really at any given point throughout the communities across the country. We have the distinction of saying America has a problem where we're killing each other. And the common denominator is the accessibility of firearms. This is not a condemnation against firearms, because I think that, we have a Second Amendment. That is our amendment. That's our constitutional right to carry a firearm. There are many gun enthusiasts who are law-abiding citizens that are responsible and carry firearms, appropriately. But it's really about, in this particular case, just discussing the sentiment. Something that we haven't really talked about is, and I'm glad you brought it up, Norma, children. How are your children processing this? Because if you're feeling the way you are, we can't be ignorant to say that our children are not sharing feelings. Can you guys share a little bit of thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
For me, it's the lack of sharing of feelings that's really disturbing. Knowing that our children are regularly enduring active shooter drills at school and not batting an eye at it. We'll have the school communicate with us to let us know that our children might be a little bit disturbed one day when they come home because they've just conducted an active shooter drill. Our children don't mention it, and when we ask them about it, they literally shrug it off and say, oh yeah.
Do you notice a change in your child or reaction that's like percolating inside their festering, if you will?
Not immediately. And again, to me, that's one of the scariest things is what is going to come up later. That the stress of being in this situation, even if they don't recognize that they are stressed, but the thought of what they need to do if somebody came into a school armed, that shouldn't be a thought that children have to have.
the stories are coming out of what happened in Uvalde, Uvalde, excuse me, and the stories of the 9-year-old girl who jumped out of the window, let alone the other schoolmate who laid on the ground, smeared herself with blood, and played as if she was dead, so the shooter would not shoot her. Those are not natural acts. This is a byproduct of, I mean, for in their case, it saved them, right? But is this a byproduct of what we're seeing is occurring across the country?
I think, as a parent, right, you tell your kids, if you brush your teeth every day, you're not going to get cavities. You eat your veggies, you're going to be healthy, you're going to be strong. But then it's how do you address this? How do when my children, I have a 4th grader as well, and I have a middle schooler, and she looks at me as, Mommy, is this going to happen to me? What do I do? And I don't have the answer. And all that is what do? Do you overexpose them? Do you continue protecting them in that bubble of, I don't want you to know too much, but what if, it's that one piece of information that could carry them to safety? And I think that's one of the things that as parents, whether you're a gun owner, gun enthusiast, whatever it is, to the core, we're parents. We want our children to go to school, feel safe, learn, and grow up to be happy adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is really getting in the way of that. We can't even see the path of, you're going to be a happy adult, because I can't even ensure your safety as a child in one of the most sacred places in communities throughout time, which have been schools.
Yeah. Safe houses. So Fatima, question, you're with the PTA.
Correct.
And I know the PTA is Parent Teachers Association, and you have the Parent Teachers Students Association. Is that what it is?
Correct.
PTSA?
We have the S in PTSA, which is the students.
And I know you guys are now coming together, talking. But so what are the proposals? I mean, what are you guys doing as an organization moving forward? Are you guys calling on legislators to create change? Give us a little feedback as to what the audience can hear and learn about, but also how they can get involved. Because I think that's really the best piece here is the takeaway for anybody is what can they do?
Correct. So we have created a lot of avenues of communications throughout our county with first Miami-Dade County PTA, Florida PTA, and National PTA. So contact your legislators, contact your local officials, let them know how you're feeling. Let them know how angry you are, because we are angry that this is happening to our kids, our babies, and we need to voice it out. Let them know and vote. You need to go out and vote for the right people that stand for the right reasons. And the right reasons, it's not having all these kids getting killed every day, or having our children come home in fear and not wanting to go to school the next day because they're afraid of what the consequences will be if they show up and there's somebody there that is going to hurt them. This conversation shouldn't be happening when we have our officials working on our behalf. So let's have them and hold them accountable for everything that they're doing. So here we are as a PTA asking all the parents, all the teachers, and all of our students to go out there, fill out these forms, write those emails, make those phone calls, and let them know your fears, that you want change. We don't ask for change, we demand it now, because it's time for change.
How many parents are in the school system or
in
part
our
of the PTA? Let's start there.
And PTA is over 2 million
Mhm.
parents that are members in PTA
Is
as a
that state of
general.
Florida?
For the state of for Miami-Dade County, which is what I can speak of, is over 485,000 members.
It's a lot of votes.
That's a lot of votes. So we need parents to go out and say something. When is this going to stop? We had it happen here in Florida, where we have this happening in churches and in schools, in grocery stores. And when are our children going to feel safe? When is our community going to feel safe again?
Yeah, very, very great question. Ryan, you're a professor, also taught in Texas, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your experiences teaching and how do you see this as a as a teacher that goes to school to teach, man, and not have to worry about a gunman coming into your school.
Yeah. So I've been both a second and a third grade teacher. Third grade teacher in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, right on the border. And whether in Texas or here in Miami, there's no reason that as a teacher you should ever have to assume that at some point somebody's going to come in committing such atrocious acts, and that you should have to put your life on the line to protect children, which we would. Absolutely.
Well, there were two teachers in Uvalde that paid the ultimate price.
They did.
The same thing in Parkland. We had staff and teachers that paid the
They
price.
did. And teachers want to be safe, and they want their students to be safe. And I think that that's something
That's reasonable, right?
it's completely reasonable. And regardless of, political affiliation or anything, like, we want to be safe. Teachers, parents, students.
Should safeguarding our children be a partisan issue? I kind of think it's a redundant question, right? Rhetorical question. But that brings me to a point. I wanted to ask you guys, what are your thoughts about the Guardian program? Because now there's there was a push post Parkland, where I was in the legislature, and I remember the incoming Speaker of the House, the Speaker in waiting, as they call him, coming to me and approaching me and wanting me to sign on to this concept of, as a matter of fact, to use Israel as an example, that teachers are armed in Israel and that we should arm our teachers. And my first reaction is, crazy. Not because our teachers are not capable of being armed. It's just the fact that we hire them to teach our children. So, but how do you guys feel about this? Because I know that there's also a call right now to expand the Guardian program in districts where, like Miami-Dade County, where former superintendents said that they would not have a Guardian program. Teachers would not have to bear that responsibility, that burden of being armed and teaching. But now there's a call and there's a conversation about arming teachers, staff members. How do you guys feel about that?
No, our teachers shouldn't be armed. It's unacceptable. They're there to educate our children.
It's not the responsibility of our teachers to carry the burden that our elected officials have been turning a blind eye to for so long. So it's easy for our elected officials to turn a blind eye, just send their heart, their prayers, their thoughts, but then you're going to burden my child's teacher who has a family of her own, who is a member of my community. You're going to burden her with your inaction by expecting her to carry an arm. I'm absolutely, horrified that this would even be considered.
Do you think a lot of parents share your sentiments?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I walk the schools every day, and I can tell you a lot of our parents' voices are not being heard. And it's a shame. And shame on our elected officials that are not listening to them. Shame on them. Because here's the consequences to them turning a blind eye and not listening. So our teachers, I don't believe they should be armed. I believe that we can get other securities in place that are happening in other places in our country to protect our children. There's other things that we can bring to the table, but that should not be one of the things that should be on the table.
Can you think
we're
of,
up for discussion.
I agree with you, but can you think of like ideas that would be common sense legislation that would go a long way in preventing a lot of these casualties, or people who should not have the firearms acquiring these weapons and then using them? Can you guys think of a few ideas of that would go a long way towards preventing and creating more safety measures? Is the PTA presenting any ideas as to legislation?
Well, yes, we have been working very hard on preventing a lot. I mean, sending out a lot of information out to DC, to Tallahassee, making sure that they understand mental health is a big issue in our whole entire country. And we need our legislators to pay attention to that. We need more funding towards that in our public schools. And I'm sure, Doctor, you could probably share more information on that, but we all share the same across this table, you're going to hear the same reaction. And the reason why is because, one, we are parents. Two, we are in public school systems. And three, we are really involved with our kids and we are following them. We are paying attention to what our legislators are doing. So as PTA, yes, we have a lot of bills that are out and we want to pass them and we need your help.
Ryan, any thoughts on what safety measures can be implemented?
So I think there's a lot to be said for prevention instead of intervention, and,
Okay.
and some of that Fatima's already touched on with mental health. We have some trained mental health counselors in schools, but there's absolutely not enough. The school day is not structured to focus on that, which certainly could go beyond Miami to the state or the federal
Mhm.
level. But there are opportunities for us to really focus more on the relationships that we have with one another, with learning to understand and communicate in ways that are effective, and to generally be supportive in different types of environments. And that's particularly important in our community here in Miami because we are a diverse community.
Very.
And the purpose is not to make everybody the same, but it is to learn to live together in respectful, productive ways.
So in the last couple of minutes before I ask you about your closing thoughts, I wanted to ask you a question. So again, this is not to bash the governor, but as I said, he stated it. Now we comment on it. The governor has, and some legislators have agreed with this, but the governor said that before the end of his term, he vowed to pass a constitutional carry amendment in the state of Florida, which means that Florida would be a permitless state. So anybody who does not have a current felony conviction or has been has mental health issues where documented would prevent that person from having a firearm. Anyone else can carry a firearm, concealed or not, on their person. What are your thoughts about that?
My immediate thoughts, my candid immediate thoughts is, start at home, right? As parents, is we start at home and then we are able to go out into the community. So I would love to see him implement this policy in his own home where his children sleep, where his wife resides. So in order to visit the governor or his office or where he works, is this the policy? Can you just walk in there without a permit, without being checked? Hey, if you can do that, like, show me and then tell me.
It's powerful. That's powerful. Walk the walk.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts? Any other thoughts?
Only that we know that for a fact, being in the presence of a gun for a child increases the risk of accidents happening. And so when it's literally all around you, what are we supposed to expect?
Yeah. Fatima?
I think it's ludicrous. I think that we need to put a system in place. This is unacceptable. As a parent, I'm angry. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking as a PTA, but part of the organization. I'm speaking as a mom.
Yeah, at the risk of being insensitive or rude, I'm actually pissed. I'm angry that we continue to have these incidents in this country, and to say that we can't prevent them is hogwash. I think we can prevent a lot of them. We may not be able to prevent everyone, but we can certainly prevent a lot of them. The fact that our children, the fact that our community members, the fact that fellow Americans are being slaughtered by the minority few who would take a gun and just shoot people is beyond me. And I think it's touching the rest of the world. Many leaders around the world are calling for change, or actually sending their sympathies and asking, why don't we create change in our own country? But I think the biggest problem is that we, our own people, our own voters, do not exercise the single right that protects everything else, and that's the vote. And I can't say it enough. By us voting today, we ensure that future votes will be protected. Guys, Fatima, if the audience wanted to get a hold of you, where can they get a hold of you?
They can reach out to us at mdccpta.net. We have all the information so they can reach out to any of us, advocacy, myself, our president, Maria Norton, anyone on the board. Actually, Norma Schwartz is also on the board. So absolutely, I am available. So si quieren hablar con alguno de nosotros como padres representantes dentro de nuestras escuelas públicas, mi nombre es Fatima Chaiken. Hablo 4 idiomas, so sin problema, pueden hablar conmigo en cualquier idioma. Pero definitivamente, por favor, tienen que salir a votar. Tienen que ayudar a sus hijos a que las voces de sus hijos, sus miedos, sus inseguridades sean escuchadas. Y lo pueden hacer como padres unidos, no importa de qué parte sean ni qué relaciones tengan con cualquier otro lado, afiliación. Estamos trabajando juntos. Unidos. Esto es un problema de todos, no de uno. Y aquí tenemos que tener la fuerza, la unión hace la fuerza y tenemos que unirnos todos para ayudar a nuestros hijos, para tener un mejor futuro y que nuestros hijos puedan vivir una vida mejor y brillante.
Thank you. Y haremos un show en español, quizá la semana que viene.
Sí, bueno, aquí se habla Spanglish, ¿no?
Sí, Spanglish, está bien. I guess, Norma, the same place you can be contacted?
Same place.
Okay, Ryan?
The easiest might be through a social media handle, and then we can coordinate from there. But at RW Pontier, which is Pontier.
So I've had the pleasure of working with Ryan, and I tell you, I can't think of a better advocate, a person he's here's kind of calm, but what a mind, a brilliant person. So you've been watching Miami's Community News, the reactions to Uvalde with parents, members of the community, Norma Schwartz, Fatima Chaiken. They're both with the PTA, Miami-Dade PTA. And then we have Dr. Ryan Pontier, representative of LULAC. Guys, please share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, retweet, but please get this information out and drop us a line. Let us know what your thoughts are, because together we can create the change that is so desperately needed. And I always say this, if the elected officials are not working for you, if they're pushing back on the issues that are going against your interests, get rid of them. Vote them out of office. They don't deserve to be there. Having said that, this is Robert Asncio. Well, let's talk. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next time.